friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Ty, or she's underscore a beauty with 2 Y's on all social media platforms. Get ready with me today while we discuss the sad and controversial death of Andrew Burd. Reminder that this is a calm space, so grab your skincare or your makeup, or if you're just listening, get cozy and let's talk about it. So a little backstory about the foster parents. They were from Corpus Christi, Texas. They were both really loving people. They did missionary work. They gave back to the church. Larry was a Sunday school teacher for a children's program, and Hannah taught Bible study. She always wanted a big family. They had 4 children of their own before they looked into the adoption process, but she always stated that she wanted a lot of children, foster and by birth, and she just loved kids. Their first attempt at adoption didn't go as planned, as the little girl was deaf and she ended up being adopted by another family in the middle of their process of trying. It is important to note that she did want to foster a child of some sort of disability or special needs, as she had a special care for those children. So as they're going through life and their children are coming up, they end up coming across a little boy named Andrew Burd, who we will be talking about today. Andrew was born July 7th of 2002. His mother did almost every substance you could think of, and the father worked in a traveling carnival, so he wasn't as present as well. The mom would have been 16 at the time of his birth, and his father was 17. By the time he had his first birthday, he had suffered a broken arm in the care of his mom, and they ended up getting the authorities involved. They deemed her unfit of taking care of him, and unfortunately his grandmother was on drugs as well, therefore she could not be deemed responsible to take care of him. So he went into foster care around this time officially. He would have been 2 going on 3 when his parents lost all rights to him, and this is around the time he got introduced to the church that Hannah and Larry were so active in. Now, when Hannah's children told her about Andrew, they said that during prayer, he would always pray to be adopted by a loving family. And so with that being said, they looked into trying to adopt him. The church members did warn them that Andrew was a little harder to take care of, as he did have eating disorder, he had speech and behavioral issues. However, the Overtons thought it would be a great opportunity to do the work that they've always wanted as far as bringing in a child. Now, around this time, Hannah found out that she was pregnant, so you have to add on looking into adopting a 5th child, now pregnant with a 6th child. They were also beginning to have a little bit of financial issues, and Larry ended up working a little more, so that just put a pretty big strain on the household dynamic, but they still felt like they would be a perfect fit for helping get Andrew in a better space and bringing him into a loving home. Of 2006, they started a trial period. It would have been 6 months that they would have to live with Andrew to see if he would be a good fit. Now, when Andrew ended up coming into the home, that's when they realized a couple of the different issues that he faced. I did see that some of the things that I'm going to list is also common in foster care. I don't know too much personally about that, but that's what I came across when I was doing my research. So some of the issues that he had was a hoarding issue with food. It was an endless eating problem with him, which they later were able to seek further help on. However, it was the eating, the extreme temper tantrum. He had a little bit of a speech delay, but when he came into the Overton home, those were all challenges that they were not scared to face when it came to helping him. The children were loving and so accepting of having a new child come in, and the family as a team did their part to help improve his behavior, his life. It was stated that his behavior in the church improved, his speech started improving. However, at home, those things started to decline. He was 4 years old around this time. However, he would spend more time with the younger children, the ones that were closer to 2 instead of the ones that were his age or older. He was improving and not improving at the same time. But again, the family worked through it. They knew that they could get through anything as long as they worked together and provided him a happy and safe space. It said that some of his favorite things were Spider-Man, so he got all this different Spider-Man blankets, pillows, clothes, just anything that sparked that joy in him. That helped a lot. However, again, going back, he was still busy and fixated on food. Anytime he was denied food, he would throw extreme tantrums and become very angry. It was so bad that he would even eat crumbs off the ground. He would eat carpet. He would eat whatever was on the ground at the parking lots or in the grocery stores. He would just eat. I even saw where he even ate or attempted to eat a cigarette bud. So in September of that year, the family got into a bad car accident, and no one really got hurt except Hannah, but it still shook Andrew, and he did not take very well to this accident, and all the progress they made ended up reverting. Hannah ended up having a bruise on her face, whiplash, and she was also, like I said, pregnant around this time, so she had to be on bed rest for a couple of weeks while she tries to heal and get back to normal. They reached out to family and friends to see if anybody would be able to come and kind of help Hannah with Andrew, since again she was on bed rest for a little while, and basically everyone said that they had an extremely hard time working with him because of the behavioral issues. One day when Larry was home, Andrew was again fussing about wanting food, and Andrew figured, you know what, let me just give him a little bit of food to see if he'll just eat and be okay. He ended up making him a full plate of sausages on this day and a dozen eggs, and Andrew ate every last bite and was still hungry. He ended up throwing up the food because of how full he was and insisted on eating more. When they told him no, he started eating at the foam on his mattress and started picking paint off the walls and eating that as well. So they ended up taking him to a therapist. The therapist mentioned that this could be a pica disorder, which basically goes back to what I was saying his issues were before, which is just a random eating disorder, and that they stated this could have been medical related more than a behavioral issue. On October 2nd of 2006, Larry took all the kids to the church, and it was just Hannah and Andrew home. He asked Hannah for lunch, and she told him no because Larry would be bringing food home in a little while. And Andrew got very upset. He went in his room and all over the room. He smeared it on the walls. It was a massive mess, and this was one of the issues that they had as far as his behavior and his tantrums went. So they threw his bed sheets away. Now, every time this happened, they would just throw the bed sheets away, and Andrew would actually dig in the trash and dig the bed sheets back up. But this was repetitive. Now, I'm not too sure if he was digging it out the outside trash or if they threw the feces covered bed sheets in the trash in the house, but I guess it became such an issue that Larry took the bed sheets outside and put it on the grill that they eat off of, and burnt the bed sheets. But even that didn't help because the smears were so bad on the sheets that ended up sticking to the grill and basically ruined it, so they couldn't use it anymore anyways. That's the only thing that kind of threw me off. Well, it was a couple of things that threw me off with this, but that was definitely one of them, because again, they could have just took the bed sheets to a dump. They could have, I'm not too sure, but burning it on the grill was a little different. Not trying to judge, but it was definitely different, and I know in hindsight they probably realized that was a little excessive, but continuing. And after they burnt the bed sheets on the grill, to clean him, they hosed him off outside. I'm assuming they didn't want to get the fecal matter all over the tub or the bathroom, or in their head they just assumed it would be better to hose him off outside. I seen their interview on Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil questioned their reason for hosing him as well. I can kind of see half and half why they would and why they shouldn't have, because again, if it's feces, it's like you don't want to smell that and get it all in the bathroom, and then that's extra cleaning to do when you could have just rinsed him off outside. But I do see on the flip hand how that could be viewed as harsh when you could just clean the bathroom. Again, no judgment, but it was different, I will say. And they also had to clean the mattress because, again, he smeared it on everything. Now, it was questionable, this part, because instead of allowing him to sleep on the couch or sleep in the bed with one of the other children, they had him sleep in the bed frame. It was like a wooden bed frame, and they had him sleep on that instead of on something comfortable. So on the outside looking, that was also another thing that they were kind of prejudged on, which, again, questionable 1000%. But from everything I seen and read, they did not seem like bad people, just probably was overwhelmed with everything going on and just didn't think about it. So again, I'm not going to pass judgment on that. It was just weird. It was just weird. On the very next day, it would have been October 3rd of 2006, Larry ended up going to work. Now, the other children were at school except Andrew and one of the younger children. And Hannah made them breakfast. They laid down in the bed with her to cuddle, watch some TV, just relax. And mind you, Hannah is still dealing with the aches and trying to recover from the accident, so she's still not feeling her best. She ends up accidentally falling asleep with the boys in her room. Now, when she woke up, Andrew was not there. She found him in the kitchen eating baking ingredients. Now, what specifically, that was never named, but he was just in the pantry eating baking ingredients for whatever that may be, seasonings, powders, I'm not too sure. But he was in there, and when she got him and stopped him, he asked for lunch. She told him no, because again, Larry was going to be bringing food home, so she just wanted him to wait a little bit, especially because they ate not too long before. He did not like this, and he ended up throwing another big tantrum. This time, he ended up pooping in the kitchen and smeared it everywhere once again. So she gave in, she made him some soup and added extra Creole seasoning to it. He ate that as she was cleaning, and he asked for another bowl. He said he was still hungry. So she made him a second bowl of that soup. He ate the entire bowl down, and he asked for more food. So this time she made him a sippy cup of water and mixed it with Creole seasoning. Again, why? I don't understand it. However, I guess her logic was the taste of the seasoning was somehow going to suppress what he's begging for. It's hard to really judge her judgment if you've never dealt with a child with an eating disorder or a child who's constantly hungry. But again, that just, it doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure a no would have been fine. Actually, no, it wouldn't have been fine, because he threw a bunch of tantrums and smeared shit everywhere. I don't know. So Hannah stated he ended up throwing another tantrum after she gave him the sippy cup with water and Creole seasoning, because again, he was still hungry. He was not fooled by the seasoned water and just kind of freaked out about it. Now, she said he threw a very bad tantrum for about 20 minutes straight, and then slowly he started to calm down. Also started throwing up and showing signs of being sick. She said it seemed like he was having an asthma attack, and he just fell to the floor. And as he's on the floor, he's becoming less and less responsive, so she panicked, and instead of calling 911, she figured it would be quicker to just drive him to the emergency clinic that wasn't too far away. And by the time they made it there, he completely stopped breathing and fell into a coma. Poor baby. You'll understand in a moment why I feel more compelled to talk about this. However, anything with children just breaks my heart. Like, throughout this journey, you're not going to see me really talk about crimes against children unless it's something that's not as graphic, but it just hurts. Like, I was watching a YouTube video the other day. Harm was not done to the children whatsoever, but they ended up finding their mom hurt. And just seeing their reaction to how they found their mother the way they did literally had me in tears. So anything when it comes to children, like, you're not going to hear me talk about often, but this story is a little different. Sorry for the sidebar. Sadly, poor little Andrew passed away on October 4th of 2006. They ran tests on him and it said that his sodium levels were 2 times the amount of an average person. They said he consumed entirely too much salt, causing his brain to swell and bleed, and that was the cause of his death. So it would have been salt poisoning. Now, a couple of questions came on to Hannah. They were asking her why, as a person with a medical professional background, would you not call for help? Why did you sit and just let him basically suffer and then try to drive him to the clinic? She stated that, of course, by just driving there, in her mind, would have been quicker, but also because of the legalities. So since he was a foster child and he was on trial, the adoption wasn't officially legal yet. She was not allowed by law to make any medical decisions for Andrew without it being cleared through the state first. So I guess in the process of all this going on, it got to the point where she didn't want to wait any longer, and instead of calling, she just drove him. Now that I can definitely understand. However, I guess their whole stance was the moment you realize something was wrong, you should have drove him. But again, this is just passing judgment on her. It's no telling what was going through her mind. Like, she had a lot going on. So I understand where she was coming from, but a lot of people didn't. And it's just sad that it ended up unfolding that way. And to make matters even sadder, all their children ended up going to temporary housing, and Hannah and Larry were arrested. Hannah's parents ended up going up to the hospital to see what other information they could get for Andrew, and in the meantime, authorities went to check their home. Now, if you go back a little bit to the things that I stated that happened literally the day prior, that did not help Larry and Hannah's case. It just made it look like he was just living any kind of way, which sucks because they were just trying to clean him. They just did it in a weird way. And it just, none of it aligned with how it should have went in the law's eyes and other people who were passing judgment. After the medical examiners took a look at him after his passing, they stated that he had blunt force trauma, scratches, and it looked like he could have been abused in the Overtons' home. Again, it looked like. And when they interviewed the children about how their home life is, they also stated that their parents used to give them spicy stuff whenever they would be bad as a form of punishment. Again, didn't really help the case, but I guess that's like an old school thing. I've seen that where, you know, if you're bad, they'll give you like chili pepper flakes or the old school soap in the mouth. Those things are considered normal and they have been done before, but again, if you're looking at a case like this, that would not be necessarily smiled on, like especially if it's a case where a child passed away due to over seasonings, which I'm not saying that to blame the kids whatsoever, because I'm not. I'm just saying as far as their ways of doing things, it just added to them being questionable to everybody else. But the kids were just doing what they were asked to do, which is tell how the dynamics are there. But the kids never said that the parents were bad or abusive. They just said what they do when they get in trouble. They're not being beat on. They're just giving spicy stuff. Like, again, I'm not judging the parents. Just want to put that out there. Another thing that they tried to use to put against the parents were the fact that Hannah was smiling and giggling when the nurses were doing CPR and life-saving measures on Andrew, which again is a little different. However, when Hannah spoke about this, she said that is her weird coping mechanism. She smiles when she's nervous. It's not that she finds it funny, it's just it makes her uncomfortable, so she'll smile or giggle when things are weird or uncomfortable or scary. I've actually seen people do this before out of nervousness. It has been times where I've been like, what? And I smiled, but not out of it being funny, but like, why the hell would somebody do that? Like, I've done it before. So again, you don't know how other people deal with things, how they cope, how they grieve. And I feel like that was just another layer added to judgment on Hannah. And I feel like this whole case was just people picking up judgments to pile it up on somebody and it ended up coming out with the worst end result, which again, I get it because a child was hurt because of all this. But again, it's like a lot of the things that were piled up against her were just judgment based off of what somebody deems normal or not normal, and not factual based, as in she actually physically did certain things. And I feel like that's what makes this story so weird. But sadly, her and her husband were charged with capital murder in 2007. She actually ended up getting life in prison. Larry, he wasn't there, but he was still charged. He took a plea, so he ended up getting probation, but when his probation was finished, all his charges were cleared. Larry had to raise their kids on his own, so now by this time it would have been 5 kids total, because Hannah still had the baby that she was pregnant with. A lot of people who knew them personally knew that she was innocent and didn't do this intentionally, and a lot of people backed her. Some people who really didn't know her that well and just were listening just charged it up to she did this on purpose. Her church ended up raising $1 million. She was able to get 3 defense attorneys, and one of the attorneys that were helping compile evidence against her in the first trial ended up switching and coming to her defense as well, because again, if you go to her track record, she really wasn't the type of person to do this intentionally. One of the defense attorneys who testified on behalf of her name was Cynthia Orr, and she was able to find medical documentation that stated that the salt contents were not actually in his stomach, meaning she didn't force him spoons and spoons of salt like they did in the first trial, trying to prove that it was intentional. It was that it was already in his blood from all the salt that he probably ingested eating those baking ingredients. So it was 2 different findings of the salt, not proven in the way that she was basically charged for. And there were no signs of dehydration. Basically, because he was not dehydrated, that would clear her of trying to purposely poison him. Now, if she were to intentionally try to dehydrate him, he likely would have passed away sooner. It's really hard for me to explain medical details because it's something that I'm not too familiar with. So if I'm saying anything weird or in an incomprehensive way, let me know. I apologize. Hopefully it's something that I will improve in time, especially covering cases like this. But yes, dehydration equals intentional. So in her case, because he was not dehydrated, on her side, it proved that she did not do it intentional. And so to go back with the bruising on the skin, because of the salt intake, it made the skin pool with blood. Meaning, if he were to have gotten bumped or scratched after going into this sick state, that is what would have caused the bruising and the scratches on him. So the life-saving measures that the clinic took is what likely caused these bruises on him, not prior to. So with all this evidence and the medical proof to back up everything that is being stated this second go around, her conviction was overturned and she was declared a free woman to go back with her family that she worked so hard to build. I seen interviews where her children, especially one of her oldest daughters, were talking about how hard it was to just basically live life without her. So the fact that she was able to go back to her babies was just, now that was sweet. It sucks that a child was lost in the process, but the fact that she can go back to her kids that I know she missed so much, that was nice. And I'm glad that everybody who knew she didn't do this rallied behind her instead of turning their backs on her and leaving her fate to be whatever it would have been. So she served 7 years in prison before this was overturned. And in March of 2018, she was awarded almost $600,000, and she was rewarded a monthly amount of $2,600 for the rest of her life. And in June of 2018, she ended up having another baby. So that brings her family count to 6 children. I can honestly say that I'm happy for her. I'm happy she was reunited with her kids. I'm happy that her husband was able to just handle the burden of all that happened and just have her back and be there for her and make sure that those wonderful kids were okay. This is one of those sad stories that took a happy turn, but my heart just breaks for poor Andrew, because it seems like he just really didn't have a chance, especially with this wonderful family bringing him in and doing everything they could to help him, and it just still didn't work for him. But you could have the best of the best or the worst of the worst support, and sometimes things just happen the way they do. Poor baby. I'm happy for their family. I hope that they prosper and that she can continue to fulfill all her dreams, and that all her children grow up happy and realize how much of a good mother she actually is. And this is the look. As always, please leave your thoughts and opinions on this case. I did see a big mix, majority of them on Hannah's side, as well as myself, because again, I am not a big person of prejudging every move that a person makes unless it's just straight out wrong. Even in my day-to-day life, I always try to weigh out, okay, well, what was their thought process? I don't just jump to, oh, they're wrong. And I feel like in this case, especially with her proven track record of being a good person, I am on the side of this was purely an accident. However, I did see a mix of people who were stating that a lot of their decisions were just flat out not smart, and they do feel like this was intentional or that she should have been convicted of some type of time, whether it was an accident or not. I feel like with her serving 7 years, that was enough punishment, regardless of what anybody else thinks, as in them feeling like she should have served more time. But again, I just want to know your all opinions. It's not really so much about me, but that I care what you all think. I feel for Hannah and Larry. I really do. But again, if you have an opinion, you're more than welcome to share it. Thank you again for spending your time with me today. I appreciate all the support and growth throughout this journey. Please leave a like and share with a friend if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you enjoyed this style of get ready with me / true crime mystery type of storytelling and content. Whether you just listened or if you did your makeup and skincare with me, remember that you are gorgeous, and I will see you all next time.